Okay, hello everybody. Thank you for joining us for this webinar today about how small law firms can stand out from the crowd by using cloud-based matter management. I have a few housekeeping items to cover before we proceed, so I'll do those now. This webinar is being recorded and will be circulated after the webinar is finished, along with the slides. We'll be leaving 10 minutes at the end to answer some questions, so please submit any questions you have into the Q&A box as we go along, and we will endeavour to answer as many as possible in that 10-minute period. Okay, so with that taken care of, I'd like to just go through the agenda you can hopefully see now. We'll go through the introductions to the panel, and then we will go through the background of the webinar and the surveys we have learnt from. There's a theme of differentiation as we go through, and we'll cover cloud versus on-premise, time saving, agile working and data security, and how this can all lead to providing a competitive advantage. Okay, so then we'll have a bit of time for the questions. Let's introduce our esteemed panel for the day. Firstly, we're very lucky to have Sally Azarmi joining us today.
Hello, thank you, Gareth.
She's the chair of the Small Law Firms Division and the Law Society of England and Wales, and set up her own firm 5 years ago. So she's got some great first-hand insights at the challenges you face as a small law firm, both from her own practice and also working with other small law firms through the Law Society. So it's going to be exciting to hear what she can bring. Next up, we have Roxanne Selby, who's the head of a small law firm strategy for Thomson Reuters, and her role has a keen focus on helping small law firms develop and prosper, and to ensure we understand the differing needs that smaller law firms have compared to larger legal organisations.
Oh, yeah.
Lastly, there's myself, Gareth Jones. I'm a software solution specialist for Thomson Reuters, and I deal with Firm Central. That's our cloud-based matter management solution designed specifically for small law firms. And I'll be directing the discussion today and trying to keep everything on topic and in order. So with that said, we should probably move on to our next slide. And as mentioned, the theme's a bit about differentiation. So when starting out a new small law firm or some type of practice, standing out for the crowd is important, really, and to ensure you can attract and retain clients and develop your business. Sally, could you take us through your experiences, what differentiating means, how technology can help?
Well, when I set up about 5 years ago, I was in a very different position from today. And initially, what differentiation means is clients, as a sole practitioner or as a very small firm, clients come to you essentially because of you. So it's your own professionalism, your own expertise which matters. But as you grow, as your caseload grows, it's a matter of being able to provide continue to provide a professional service and have confidence in what you're doing. And that, in my experience, becomes more difficult. Even practical things like just having more cases, more paper, you could start ending up drowning in paper, etc. And different kinds of organisation are needed as you grow in order to be able to present yourself. I think today, small firms, the great thing about where we are today is that no matter how small you are, you can present yourself as a large firm because we have the same facilities available to us through the internet. And so as you grow, it's a matter of keeping overheads down and being able to provide a professional and confident service, which is sustainable at all times with clients.
That's great. Roxanne, have you got anything you want to add from a technology provider point of view?
Yeah, I mean, as Sally mentioned, I mean, for smaller firms, often you yourself are the differentiator, and I think that will be true for many. And I think that differentiation is absolutely key to sort of reducing competition. Now, it's about you, but differentiation generally may mean a number of things, depending on the approach that you take, the area of practice, and how many of you there are. But, I mean, obviously what you're looking to do is to reduce the competition and shift the conversation away in some areas of work from one just about price to something that's unique, whether that's you or whether it's some other factor. We've obviously done a lot of work at Thomson Reuters learning about what clients want from people, and clients are telling us all the time that they value responsiveness and the understanding that firms bring of their businesses and that the approaches their businesses take, the attitude to risk, etc. Those factors obviously aren't in themselves differentiators. There's an extent to which those ought to be a given, really, but focusing on them means that you have the time to focus on the things that are differentiators, so whether that's you or whether it's some other thing. And what's critical really is your ability to free yourself up, particularly, as Sally says, as your practice grows and develops, to focus on those differentiators and really to help you be the best version of yourself that you can be to attract business and to grow that business further. Yeah, thank you.
Cool. Okay. Yeah, I think it's really great points there, and yeah, the key thing is there. Yeah, it's yourself as a small business. You are the attraction there, and having technology behind you to do that, I think, is what we're looking at really. Okay, so moving on now. Basically, Thomson Reuters conducted a survey in 2016. It was towards the end of 2016 to look at key challenges faced by small law firms. Roxanne, can you take us through some of the results we've highlighted here?
Yeah, certainly. I mean, we did this survey towards the end of last year, and I think we had about 400 respondents from firms with 1 to 50 fee earners, so perhaps slightly larger than some of the firms we've got today, and obviously that's Sally's. But obviously they represent a huge amount of the market. I think 97% of firms, and also 25% of total billings. And we asked them to tell us about their key challenges, as we were really interested to learn about these and the ways in which we can help people address them. So what we learned from that really was that, as you can see on this slide, attracting clients and retaining clients are some of the key factors. So attracting clients was the factor that people were struggling with most, and it will be interesting to see if Sally's experiences in a minute match up with that. But then along with that, the second highest factor was really the challenge that's huge about serving those clients profitably. And there are other challenges in there as well about cash flow and managing the business profitably. Alongside a number of approaches for dealing with these, fee models, etc., technology and matter management were key. And firms were looking to solutions to help address these challenges of profitability, and by extension also to free up the time to deal with some of the other challenges, so the attracting clients, retaining clients, and other things that they're seeing. So I don't know whether Sally would agree with the order of those, or whether you have different experiences.
I can speak from my own personal experience, and obviously attracting new clients is key. Without new clients, and you can never be complacent about it. But for me, personally, and from what I've seen of small firms recently, I think there is increasing demand for niche, good, small practices. And I think the statistics are at the moment that more small firms or sole practitioners are opening than ever before. So that's good. And they must be attracting new clients, otherwise they wouldn't be. For me, the second point, serving matters and clients profitably, has increasingly become the main issue, because I've attracted the new clients. I continue to attract, somehow, thankfully, new clients. Therefore, I'm growing. I don't want to become a massive firm. I like being small. So the real challenge then is, how do you do that? How do you maintain providing the best possible bespoke, attentive service at all times to your clients? You don't go crazy in the meantime. And the service that you provide is compliant. So SIA regulations, there's so many hats we have to wear. Am I compliant? Security, cybercrime, major issues with small firms now. Are those issues being dealt with? Am I managing everything at the same time? So serving matters in a way that ticks all the boxes, and at the same time enables me to spend time on different matters, attract new clients, and therefore be profitable, and not spend huge amounts on overhead. I mean, that's the key for me to sustainability and continued growth at a rate that enables me to be a profitable small business.
I think it's some really important points there, Sally. I think particularly about you saying not wanting necessarily to become an enormous law firm. Growth is different for everybody, and it's managing how you do that. Just moving on to the next slide, just to remind everybody that you can submit questions as we go along. So you should be able to see a Q&A box on the right-hand side. So please put any questions you have to us, and we'll endeavour to answer them towards the end. So please feel free with any burning questions you have. So let's move on now to the next slide here, and it's a continuation, obviously, of the survey we did with penetration and benefits and matter management. So it was looking at ways in which the challenges we've highlighted can be addressed. So perhaps Roxanne, again, you can maybe expand on that for us.
Yeah, thank you, Gareth. Yes, I mean this slide again is taken from the results of the small and medium law firm survey that we did last year. And what this is really showing is that there's a realisation already that technology and matter management need to be integral to small firms' strategy, and for many it is already an integral part of strategy. We learned from the survey that 67% of the respondents, and I think there were about 350 responses, were already using some form of matter management. I mean, obviously what we don't know is how sophisticated that is. I mean, we talk to firms regularly, and many have Excel-based sort of homemade systems, or they're stitching together systems from a variety of apps that are available on the market. It's not always clear when the tipping point is to actually buying a solution like Firm Central or one of the others. For some it will be essential when they start up on their own, perhaps having come from a bigger firm, or for others they might be using Office 365 or whatever. But it also really shows that it's because there's already such an awareness of it. It's even before you get to the point of differentiation, it's about keeping pace with competitors. It's important. If you're a client looking at who to go for, are you going to go for the firm who looks professional and organised, or the firm who's got paper all over the place? So there's that element. The middle column of the slide sort of shows the benefits that people were telling us about matter management, and again these very much tie into the kind of business challenges that we saw in the earlier slide around efficiency, so generally efficiency, but also managing contacts, using the kind of reporting tools, and taking all of that on board to improve profitability, but also to improve communication with clients. So it's all about addressing the business challenges, and there's also a benefit potentially of having access to all this information in one place under an umbrella, and again, as Sally mentioned, an umbrella that's compliant with the SRA and regulation. Thank you.
Yeah, I think some good points there. And I think, yeah, you've highlighted there that a lot of these kind of administrative areas kind of thing, if they can be taken care of easier, it kind of ties back to what both Roxanne and Sally were saying about promoting the best version of you. It allows that to be a little bit easier. I don't know, Sally, if you could talk about your experience in addressing those kind of challenges.
Yes, I mean, first of all, I think quite a few small firms I come across have got some form of case management. The tipping point for me as a small firm, I mean, you can, as you say, it's all about overheads initially, and you can cobble together a few different systems with free apps here and there, but then you don't have an overview of everything. It's only once you get a system in place that you realise how much more efficient you can be. But one of the key things that seems like a very simple practical point for me has been storage. I mean, there's only so many paper files and so much paper that you can store. And if I know that I can store things very safely and, again, in a compliant manner, that has huge implications for me now, because for one thing, I don't need large premises to store things. I don't need to pay a company that I don't really know to hold my papers, etc. All this is, for me, quite huge as my caseload increases and the number of clients I have and old files, closed files increase. I mean, physically, where do you put them? So to be able to just drop them in a box and know they're there, they're safe, and in an organised manner, I have access to them. If the client ever needs anything, we have access to them immediately. That is really a key bit of organisation that's been great for my firm.
So it's about providing that client experience, and there's an advantage obviously to be gained in that as well.
Yeah. I kind of liken it to kind of like marginal gains in sport and things like that. It's all these little things which you take care of, and which make things a little bit easier, and that just allow that that frees up a few minutes here. It takes some stress out of your day if you're worrying about where your documents are and things like that, and all those things add up, I think. And I think some really good points there. Okay, moving on slightly from the survey now, we're kind of looking at cloud versus on-premise. The case matter management, as we saw from the survey there, seems to be understood pretty well as most majority of firms having something in place. So we should probably look at the case for cloud over on-premise solutions. Sally, what do you think in terms of that? Yeah, are on-premise solutions viable for small firms?
I mean, for me, it wasn't even something I could look into, to be honest. Really, the thought of it that you see, these are areas of expertise I simply don't have and I don't want to have. When you're in a large firm, it's all taken care of. There's whole departments dealing with these things. The IT department, or this or that, and they fix everything, and you don't even have to look into it. When you're on your own, I mean, I wouldn't even know where to look for that, to be honest. I wouldn't have known. So I tried to make my one laptop or two laptops as secure as possible, use whatever systems I could to make sure I was compliant. But, I know there are other firms who have looked into it and used their own private networks. But I just, for one person, it just wasn't even a question.
If you felt the potential impact for infrastructure, maybe an IT person kind of thing, which an on-premise solution often needs, which wouldn't be viable for you.
No, I personally don't have the knowledge. My children have more knowledge than I do on these things. I'd have to be calling them every minute, and then if not that, then I'm reliant again. You see, all the time when you're just yourself, you want other people to just go away and solve your problem and not keep coming back to you, or for things to be delayed when you're looking for someone and so on. So that would be another phone call in the day that I would have to make if things went wrong, if I didn't understand how to do things or whatever. So it just wouldn't be practical for me to even consider that.
Okay, great. Roxanne, anything to add on that? I think Sally's kind of definitely opened up some really key elements there. Did you want to expand on that?
I just cannot contemplate how, if you were on your own or in a small firm, you would even contemplate setting up servers, or how you would begin that, or just in terms of the cost and the resource that you need for that. It seems to me inconceivable. I suppose with any solution, the focus has to be on what you need to deliver your strategy, so what resource and functionality, and is the solution then designed for your organisation? I just can't see how dealing with servers and that sort of thing fits with a sort of smaller firm and the kind of delivering your business and strategy. I think something cloud-based, simple, that focuses on the kind of things that you need to deliver your work just seems to me much better. So that the cloud, it's shifting all the burden of that administrative sort of horror really to your provider. So the key then becomes about picking the right provider for what you're doing, for the nature of the work that you're doing, for the workflow that you're operating, for the way that you want to grow, and for what you want a sort of solution to provide. I guess this slide also covers some of the other benefits, but also scalability. I mean, you may be wanting to stay small, you might be wanting to grow, you might be wanting to bring on flexible resource on a, case-by-case basis. And a cloud-based solution, again, is scalable. So, if your position changes tomorrow or next year, a provider can, work with you on that. It's just a matter of getting additional license, not a matter of, where do I put my server? Do I have a backup server? That, again, it's about making sure you pick the right provider who can deal with those questions for you. And then I guess as well as that, we've talked about master management being key to differentiation, and it is more than just picking your documents and something. It's about being your best self and punching above your weight. So, it's a cloud-based solution. You're benefiting from a bigger provider's development roadmap, from the features that are going to come on stream down the line. You can be cutting edge and convey a professional image that's kind of, best in class from your bedroom or your house or whatever it is. You can be your best self.
Yeah, I think that's a key point, Roxanne, about leveraging, large, technology-based organisations' power, in effect, for your small business. And giving that professional edge there. I think that's an interesting point point to make, and and also about expansion and growth as well. If you are looking at growing kind of thing, if you do have an on-premise solution, does that have a cost impact on IT resources? And when you're doing that, does that become a barrier to growth potentially? Cloud systems seem to certainly remove that potential obstacle, if nothing else.
Also, I guess the other stuff about integration with other things and looking at this end-to-end service. So there are solutions that integrate with accounting packages, solutions like Firm Central that integrate with your know-how. So looking at saving time and money across the board in a variety of ways, really.
Well, I mean, in this, really, what you're getting is several departments of a large firm behind you in one thing. So you're getting your storage, your filing, you're getting your IT man or woman, and you're getting your conflict searches. You can do that. So all sorts of things that other departments would do behind you before, and your accounts, most importantly, and overview and your billing. I mean, and the important thing I think is starting up or being a small firm is that all these things, once they're organized and they're sorted and you wake up in the morning, it's not something you have to worry about, it gives you that added confidence. When you have that added confidence, you manage your cases better and you have more time to do that, but also you will attract more clients as well because you're more confident in the service you're selling, basically, and you have a right to be. That's been my experience.
I mean, really, there's enough worry around doing the actual work of the client rather than managing your
Exactly,
IT.
and that's just the hats you wear. You'd think it'd be crazy to set up on your own, but we're not. We do it, and it's got a lot of advantages. The freedom it gives you, the independence. I wouldn't put give that up for any amount of money. But on the other hand, these are the key issues you have to deal with, because if you scrimp and save on something like cyber security, or something or the way you store things, which seem basic practical points, that could wipe you out one day. Because again, as a small practice, what you can't afford is any issues cropping up which are going to take your time away from your casework that are not planned into your daily. If you've got several cases to deal with in one day and then something crops up, your computer completely crashes or there's some major issue with security, that's it. Your time's gone. You're worried about something else. It's very difficult to then manage everything.
Yeah, I think it's interesting you talk about the hats you wear, and I think the hat that fits the best is the lawyer hat, right? And so, so if you can wear that hat for as much of your time as possible, that's going to deliver an advantage for yourself, isn't it?
And confidently,
Yeah. Okay, so moving on a bit, but still looking at similar kind of themes there. We kind of touched on it already about productivity and profitability. We know that technology helps drive productivity, which should in turn drive profits. And perhaps Roxanne can cover a bit more of that.
Yeah, I mean, recent years have been fortunate. We've seen very good growth for smaller firms. Sally's mentioned already the number of smaller firms that have set up in this climate. When you look at things like surveys like the NatWest Legal Benchmarking Report, 2015 and 16 have been really positive years for growth. People seeing about average growth of 11% over those 2 years, and probably even more than that for many. I mean, again, that's been backed up by surveys that we've done here at Thomson Reuters. Smaller firms, medium-sized firms have been seeing growth. But what they're also telling us is that they're having to work much harder to deliver and to deliver that growth. People are seeing, cash flow, profitability, they're massive issues for people. It's interesting reading things that I don't know whether this chimes with Sally's experience. Probably does today because she's in our office. But lawyers are only doing like 3.9 hours of billable work per day sometimes. So efficiency in making those hours needs to be a real area of focus that technology can help with. So that's kind of what this slide is saying. But, as we've kind of touched on before, it's also about moving your business on a stage. So freeing yourself up to provide a more professional, tailored service. Small firms, people go to small firms for a reason. They want that personal service. They want to hire Sally in particular rather than a vast swathe of paralegals and whatever working on their matter. It's a key differentiator, and technology's helping provide that. And it's also potentially about, the opportunities it can give you to grow. So can you use technology to expand your service? So, we've kind of talked a little bit about sharing documents. There's also tools such as collaboration portals. So you might want to collaborate with colleagues, you might want to collaborate with clients, expert witnesses, whatever. Those kind of portals and things might, it might occur to you that there are new opportunities or ways to extend your business or be freer to do other things if you use those.
No, that's great. Sally, I don't know if you want to talk about your experiences of adopted technology and what that's allowed you to achieve.
Well, I mean, primarily, a key point is that I can be anywhere. I've been on top of a mountain in the Middle East and still been able to connect, obviously through my phone or whatever. But I mean, for instance, next week I have to go away to Dubai for a week, and I have a case that's ongoing there, and it's great. My entire set of files on that case, which are quite a few, are going to be with me on this system, and I can access them from anywhere. On my phone or my laptop or whatever, or the client's laptop, we can access it, I have access to his documentation. But the other thing, again, that increasingly we're seeing with small firms, a big issue is cybersecurity, and hacking of phone calls even, or hacking of emails, and access to bank details and so on when people are dealing with conveyancing matters, for instance. Now, if there's a portal where you can share your information privately with the client and only they see it and you see it, I think that's huge in itself. I mean, I used it today, for instance. I needed a client to send me a copy of their passport for something I'm doing for them, and I asked them to upload it on the client portal, so only I will see it. And that, as far as I'm aware, because I'm relying on the system I have, is secure. So. I mean, and the clients, I think, see it as a very professional thing, because they're able to use a system that I have to forward documents to me securely.
I think it's a really good point about the kind of mobility you have, because and also it isn't just small law firms now that are increasingly being more agile and working in different spaces, but also clients demand that access to their lawyer as well now. I think we'll touch on that in a second. So I think it's interesting, that Sally's experience, obviously, of being up a mountain and still working,
Surprised with the phone signal.
Yeah, well,
I was surprised. It's better than the city.
Yeah, exactly. But I think, it really highlights that point there as well, and some of the productivity tools there, which just allow you for a great work-life balance as well, potentially. So if we just move on now to cloud-based solutions and efficiency. So key functionalities to consider to ensure that you can reduce your administration time as much as possible. We've already kind of covered a little bit of that in some of the things we've talked about now, but maybe Roxanne can take us through some key ones we've identified here.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's probably more interesting to see which Sally thinks are the most key. I mean, these are some fairly standard kind of functionalities that you get in these solutions. But again, going back to my earlier point, it's worth thinking very much about what you need to deliver your business. I'd imagine time and billing are going to be absolutely key for most people, the invoice creation as well, and having that organised, sort of accurate view of their billing across the board. Whether via a dashboard or whatever. Document storage, again, you don't want to be storing files for years and years around the place and dealing with the challenges that brings. So that's going to be key. But then we touched on sort of collaboration and the integration or linking with other systems, so whether it's accounting, whether it's know-how services like practical law, that kind of provision of an integrated end-to-end thing. But again, it's about which of these you need to create a professional image and to deliver your business efficiently. So I don't know, Sally, which you think are most useful?
I mean, I've got a few of them really all together. I mean, document storage certainly, as I keep saying, as I've grown and the number of cases behind me has grown, I mean, what do? You need to back up. Where do you back up? And where USB thingies, what you call USB memory stick things, you know. See, that's how informed I am on these things. But for instance, the drives, USB drives, they can get lost so easily. I mean, imagine having your entire caseload on one of those backed up, and where you can misplace them so easily. Having different computers, if you've got other employees, which I have had, and so on, making sure, and what if the computer's lost or the, you know, whatever. There's only so much control you have over these things. So that's a huge element of risk that you've minimized if you can just store it somewhere like this. Time and billing, and also obviously going paperless in itself is huge for me, I think. Time and billing, again, essential. With the best will in the world, if you've got different systems around the place and so on, you're not going to have an overview of everything at once. You're not going to be able to remember all the sort of expenditure and so on that you've got. Or if you're doing a bill, I mean, you know, like me, I sat down many nights on a Sunday night or a Sunday morning doing your bills, and then you're faffing around with the bill, you know, making sure it's all aligned. And you know, if they're all homemade documents, and those are the sort of issues you have, with this sort of thing, you just press a button, hopefully, with a few adjustments here and there, you should have your bill. It's then stored. It's already, everything's done for you immediately. It's really much more efficient. And as I said, just having an overview of your bills, of where a client stands in terms of the time you've incurred, recording your time recording. When I first started 5 years ago and so on, not many people were offering that service actually, that you could, and if they were, it was a huge cost. Look, you know, hundreds a month. There are good apps out there for time recording, which is free, but, you know, then again, if I used them, I'd have to do them with clients' names done anonymously, etc., because I wouldn't know if it's secure, etc. So this takes care of all of those issues for me, really.
I think the time recording one's an interesting one as well, because, you know, I've spoken to, you know, many small law firms, and a couple of even told me they still use a stop clock on their desk and paper timesheets, and they record their things that way, and you know, they've always done it that way, and you know, you know, it's from their account, it works for them. But then I think, you know, in a modern busy lawyer's day now, how easy would it be to miss things that you've done and don't record for? Whether you're billing on an hourly rate or fixed fee, you know, kind of thing, you need to record what you're billing so you understand how efficient you're being and how profitable you can be, I think, as well. And so, you know, I think it's a key area which I think a lot of technology, you know, looks to address now.
As you said, sorry, increasingly with fixed fees or capped fees, I mean, that's something we all have to offer and clients want. But you still need to know how much time you've put into something, to know whether you're pricing yourself right. And that's essential for a small business, is getting your pricing right is a key issue.
Yeah, and some of the reporting you can get from various services, you know, like what we offer, kind of thing, help you drill down on that and you know, analyse that further. And again, you know, for a modern firm, I think it makes a lot of sense. Okay, so if we then move on now to growth, so you know, we've already obviously talked about, you know, various elements which kind of lead towards growth, and there are many forms of growth as well. And you know, Sally said it earlier about not just becoming a larger firm. Maybe Roxanne, you can take the lead on this one.
Yeah, I mean, as you say, it's not just about becoming a larger firm, but then on the other hand, I think there was a survey recently, and it was something like 55% of smaller firms, perhaps not just small but more medium-sized ones, were looking for rapid expansion. And obviously then how you do that and grow is as important as how much you grow as well. So, you know, whether you're looking to grow in terms of physical numbers of people, revenues, etc., or whether you're looking to grow an area of work, the quality of work, or free up your time or whatever, obviously this kind of solution has a number of benefits and can help you. So the kind of scalability element of a solution that's cloud-based can help you with growth. You know, it's adaptable. You're talking about additional licenses rather than infrastructure and you know, backups or whatever. So a solution is well placed to help you. And it's also, I think, well placed to help you as you go through that period of growth or change. So, it may just be at the start that you want to focus on document storage and perhaps time and billing as well. But then once you've exploited those and perhaps as your business has moved on a bit or you've achieved some of your objectives along the way, you want to look at other opportunities. The more collaborative styles of working might become necessary as you grow and more people become involved. So I suppose that the key thing from all of this really is that you're future-proofing yourself, however you want to develop, whether that is growth in terms of size or as another way.
Yeah, Sally, you anything to comment on that?
I think I agree. I mean, basically, growth. Yes, if I have to employ 2 new PMers in the next 2 or 3 months, and again, as a matter of knowing what my overheads will be, I have to take into account these things. So I would know what the cost of it would be, and it would be very easy to then integrate them into the system, rather than trying to introduce them to my own personal system of how I file and having a different file for each client, etc., and doing a homemade version, which then I wouldn't be able to access their documents unless, it would just be messy. And when I first started, that was what was available to me with my employees. So this would be, and it's more impressive for your employee as well. If you are trying to recruit, and recruitment is difficult these days, there are small firms, particularly those outside London, find it more difficult to recruit, in my experience, good young solicitors or good solicitors, etc. So I think it's impressive for the employee as well that you're taking on, that everything's organised, everything's taken care of, and they have to possibly do less admin as well. Or what they do have to do is very minimal and professional, high-tech.
Yeah. I think it's just to talk about, having shared spreadsheets and someone left it open on their computer so you can't access it and things like that. Even simple things of the old days, hopefully things are the past now. Okay, and I suppose moving on slightly about growth, although again related, is looking at any time, anywhere working. Again, obviously Sally's taking it to the extremes with working on mountains, but yeah, the importance of responding to your clients whenever they need you to has never been more apparent, I think, in the current situation. I think it's fair to say that only cloud solutions to give you that true flexibility to do that in an easy way. Maybe Sally, you can tell us how that's helped you be more flexible. I think you've obviously talked about it earlier, but maybe
well, I mean, for one, I go around the world with this backpack on my back, call it my like turtle shell, but it's got everything in it. My whole office is in it now, which is basically my laptop. And now, if you then have to worry about how secure you are with that laptop, if you lose it, God forbid, or something happens, you've got your security on it, etc. But if I know that my entire firm and all my clients' papers are in a cloud somewhere and I can access them from anywhere, whatever happens to my laptop, that's immense for me. It takes a whole load of worries away from me. It means that, I do need to work from anywhere. I often work from home. I often work from my office in the city, work from a plane, wherever. And this just means I carry a lot less paper with me. Or you can be in court, for instance, if I have an appeal hearing or something, and if there's that one bit of documentation that you haven't brought with you in your many files, to court, then it's easily accessed. Again, it's all about being professional and providing the best possible service at any time, anywhere.
Yeah. Have you found that your clients have kind of are they increasingly asking for information or asking work of you outside of the usual office hours?
Oh God, I don't have office hours. Office hours. I wish I had office hours. No. Yeah. Yes, of course they do. Yeah. Anytime, absolutely. Sunday, any day. Yeah. Yeah. But then that's part of what I do. That's what I chose to do, and I enjoy it. But because of these systems now, it does mean that maybe on a Monday afternoon when everyone else is working away. I don't have to if I've worked on the Sunday or whatever. It's flexibility and freedom which it does give you. Because at the end, also you have to remember when you choose to set up on your own, hopefully it's not all about making that huge amount of money or whatever, or it's also growing and growing. It should also, I think, be about your life and your enjoyment of what you do, and having more time to spend with your family, etc., or being flexible with the time that you do have. Yeah. And I think these things enable you to do all that as well.
Yeah. I think it's a key point that Sally makes about a work-life balance. I think more and more people, hold that far more in greater stock about how important it is for the work they do, and anything that can help you, have that balance, I think, is really, really important.
Well, people just don't want to work in offices all hours anymore.
No.
It's a very outdated notion.
Exactly.
And why would you spend the overheads on that when people can work from wherever?
I think that whole structure is falling away, and that again is the beauty of being a small firm. We have that huge advantage over large firms in that we're not tied to leases and a massive, office somewhere, etc. We can function in a whole new framework, and hopefully, and the SRA regulations will increasingly allow us to do that, and we'll be more free to do these sort of things. So, and at the end of the day, it means lower overheads and more profit from the work that you do.
Yeah, I think that agility of the small law firm is really key there in responding to those changes, isn't it? I think the very large corporate entities kind of thing, struggle to change course like that way. The whole oil tanker, analogy kind of thing. Whereas small law firms, are much more agile in that way. Okay, so now we're going to move on to data security and client confidentiality. Really important questions that face small law firms. Data security, is obviously in the news very, very often. And so maybe Sally, I think you've mentioned it a few times already, but why is data security so important for your firm?
I mean, I think it's one of the biggest issues now for all firms, particularly small firms, because I think we can be easier targets as well. I don't know how they go about doing these things, but in terms of hacking, etc. I imagine that we could be quite easy targets. So it's a major worry, and if that's taken care of by a system for me, by someone else that has credentials and so on, that's worth a great deal, I think, to most small firms. The SRA, the regulations, knowing that the information you hold is held in England, and I don't have to, have any sort of terms in my terms of business announcing to clients anything about holding information elsewhere, etc. I mean, it just gets too messy for me, and that's actually been one of the things that stopped me using cloud services in the past, because I wasn't sure where the information would be and how secure it would be. But again, if you have an assurance, if you have a system, ultimately the responsibility is ours, solicitors. Or if something goes wrong, even with the cloud provider, then it's my responsibility. I accept that, I know that. But at least if I know that, I'm starting off with the best possible service, and the assurances that it's secure, that your ISO 27001, SOC 2, etc., all the certifications, then that's a great starting point for me.
Yeah, I think Sally's highlighting some key points there about trusting the provider and selecting the right provider for you. And I think it's important to know what to ask maybe when considering your provider. What questions you need assurances on, and we've covered a few on the slide here. Things like business continuity, what server uptimes, altitude protection against data loss. What are your providers' policies on that? How can you get evidence of that? How they provide those. Data residency, again, Sally touched on that as well with the SRA and also the guidelines about data residency being in the European area. It's important that stays there to ensure you're compliant. And again, we know compliance is incredibly important. even security monitoring. There are many server providers, across the world, kind of thing. But what security they have in place about that, Sally's mentioned there that small law firms could be, potentially seen as an easier target to attack in terms of cybercrime. Larger organisations, have the ability to provide much greater security provisions on their data and make that a much more difficult proposition for any potential hackers. And certification as well. We've mentioned a couple here. ISO 27001, basically, and for those maybe who don't know so much, basically, specification for information security management systems, or ISMSs, and that includes all legal, physical, and technical controls involved in organisations' information risk management processes. A bit of a mouthful, but basically, that specification was developed to provide a model for establishing the implementation, operating, monitoring, reviewing, maintaining, and improving an information security management system. So any provider which has that ISO accreditation, is exceeding those levels. SOC 2 certification as well. This is an international certification which stands for Service Organisation Control 2. Again, the slips of the tongue. And then it reports on various organisational controls related to security, availability, processing integrity, confidentiality, privacy, and it is recognised as a worldwide standard, one of the strictest audit standards for service providers. So it's these kind of accreditations that I think people should be looking for when selecting their service provider. Can they provide assurances on all those security features? Can they provide evidence about security features, and key things to think about when selecting providers. I think unless we want to still get more about data security, we can maybe move on, maybe? Yeah? Okay. Right, so yes, so we've kind of, everything's been, that we've talked about so far today has been kind of leading towards this idea of a future competitive advantage. To sum up, basically everything we've discussed really, cloud matter management's aim is to help firms position yourselves for the future competitive advantage. Systematic matter management, keeps everything organised and helps you keep it organised in a simpler way, and that allows you to serve your clients promptly and efficiently. By doing that, you free up time to allow you to add value to your clients. So I think Sally's touched on that a number of times today, along with Roxanne, about adding value to your clients and standing out from others. If the systems you take and the administrations that you have allow you to add value to your clients, that will see you in good stead for your business. So you did mention others. And being responsive, as and when the client needs, transparency, maybe clarity on fees and what you provide for those fees, all those kind of things which you can do, and making collaboration easier. And again, Roxanne's touched on that. It could be with clients, or it could be with colleagues. Having technology to help you do that, regardless of where you are in the world. If you're in an office, whether you're at home, whatever, you can. That's available to you now. And I don't know, maybe Sally, you want to highlight some key takeaways for everyone to have a think about?
I think as a small practice, the key takeaway for me has been that to be honest, I resisted getting a cloud-based management for a while, but I see it now as something that's crucial at this stage for my business, and it's an enabler, basically. It is the big law firm behind me, and certainly in terms of overhead, it's worth, for me, it's been worth every penny because of the time it saves, because of the impression I give as a result of it, of the services that I can provide for clients. So I don't think I could go back to being without the system now, having used it. And ultimately I think it's an asset for any small business.
Absolutely, yeah. Anything to add on that, Roxanne, at all, or before you jump into the questions we've got? So.
No, I think that's right. I mean, it's about managing yourself in an efficient, professional way. You time, but there are also the additional benefits. So it's about positioning yourself to get peace of mind on various issues that you don't want to deal with yourself. You just want to focus on your practice and positioning yourself for the future.
Mm. I think great, yeah. Okay, so we've got a few questions that have come through from our subscribers today, if that's the right word for you guys out there. So thank you very much for that. We've got one here now. I think that's potentially for myself and Roxanne. So it's how do you manage the regulatory data protection challenges presented by a cloud-based solution? There's then a bit further on that. More specifically, if you use a cloud-based tool to complement your legal advisory offering to your client, how do you reconcile your client confidentiality obligations with what essentially amounts to disclosure of information to a third party? So, Roxanne, did you want to take that? Or I can probably answer at least a bit of that, I think. In terms of disclosure to a third party, I dare say, encryption is a key part of that kind of thing. Basically, the SRA and Law Society guidelines basically allow third-party cloud providers as long as they meet and exceed the requirements they put in place. So again, it goes back to the data security and confidentiality questions to ask when considering that. For example, we exceed our SRA guidelines. The Silver Linings cloud computing paper by the SRA covers a lot of that information as well. We exceed their guidelines about data security, data sovereignty, down to the point. Down to the point of the encryption keys versus the data access keys. We don't have teams that have access to both. So we cannot even read your data. In that kind of way, it's purely your data. We store it for you, and there are things to consider in that. So in terms of going to a third party, there should be no problems as long as you consider those elements. Does anyone have anything to add on that?
So I suppose you've got to comply with the Law Society best practice and the SRA Silver Linings report as well. But as you're complying with those, obviously, yes, the burden still is on you to make sure that you're doing stuff, but you've complied with that. But I think you've answered a lot of the
also, the Law Society has a note on this, on cloud computing, what to look for, etc. The pros and cons. And also the Silver Linings report is worth reading if you're considering trying a system.
But I think that encryption is an important point which we perhaps didn't touch on so much in that it's not just about where the data is, but also who can read it.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and again, that will be a key question when considering providers is what encryption levels do you have? How robust are they? And that kind of information, and a reputable provider will be able to give you that information.
But I'm also the SOC 2 and the ISO 27 whatever it is 1001.
Yep.
They cover those points as well, and indeed a reputable provider should be able to provide you with a copy of their audit report. So we get audited every year, and there are those reports that can be given out if you want to look at that.
Yeah. Absolutely, yeah. I think we've got a question, seems for Sally here as well. So it says, Sally, what systems are you using? Are these systems only for you or accessible directly by your clients, for your clients? So I think you've touched on that a bit already, but maybe...
Yeah, I mean, until recently, I was cobbling together certain systems called Sally's system, basically. But as I said, there are good apps out there which record your time and provide a bill if you want, etc. But I'm actually using the Thomson Reuters system now, and if I had other employees, etc., they would have access to it. But in terms of my clients, there is a client portal on this system, and it allows me to invite my client to that portal. They open an email, they get a password from what I've seen, and then they can basically upload their documents onto my portal, my system, and I can download whatever documents I want them to see into that portal. So they only get to see what I want them to see, and I'll see whatever they've uploaded. So for some of the key documents they send me, like bank statements or all sorts of personal documents they send me, it can mean that they don't have to go through their Yahoo account, etc. toing and froing by email. They can just do it very securely through this portal.
Which creates a better impression, really, as well, than having to have people emailing their bank details and things across.
Yeah, just to clarify, so the service that I was referring to is Firm Central.
Sorry,
just to make sure, in case anyone wasn't aware, but yeah, absolutely. Yeah. There seems to be a bit of a follow-on question here, which is potentially aimed at me, so I hope I can answer that. Okay, if you have a 100 megabyte leased line, will using a cloud-based solution substantially slow down the speed of their network? So I suppose cloud computing systems, will always have an element of dependency on the quality of your internet connection. Obviously, our cloud-based, you need an internet connection to access them. 100 meg leased line, I would have thought would be more than sufficient. I think many people we speak to probably don't have as such a big connection as that kind of. So I would have thought it wouldn't make a big difference. But again, for each provider, you might want to speak to them about that and maybe their IT teams to see if they can provide you information. I can't speak for other providers, but my understanding is that if you have a 100 meg line for yourself, it shouldn't slow down your network particularly at all. It's only because it's only ever used necessarily when you're uploading and downloading documents. Particularly, the rest of it runs as a web page in a browser. So if you can access Gmail and BBC Sport or whatever it is you use as well, you should be able to access a cloud-based system as well. Couple more questions I think has come through here. What are the benefits of a cloud-based solution against remote desktop to your in-house case management solution? Okay, well, that's an interesting one. Obviously, we do see remote desktop options now. Now, I don't know if, Sally, you've got any experience of anything like that?
I tried it and I couldn't work it, so to be honest, I gave up. Yeah.
Okay. So it wasn't for Sally. I certainly have spoken to people who have those options, and they are another consideration to make, absolutely. In terms of benefits of a cloud-based system, I would say having cloud-based systems is potentially simpler, purely because you are able, to, as Sally does, take a computer anywhere. There's no logging into a particular, logging into the remote desktop thing to access anything. It's all available straight away just with an internet connection. But again, that's probably a preference for each individual firm to consider, I would imagine. I don't know if I could necessarily, I don't think I've put any advice on that personally. I don't know, Roxanne, have you anything we could talk about on that?
I'm not an expert on that really. I don't know. I would have thought that a cloud-based solution would be much simpler for the kind of smaller firms. The alternative.
It's the umbrella thing, so it's all under one umbrella for me. That I don't know if the other solution enables you to have everything in one place, but it wasn't just about accessing my documents remotely. It was about having all this backup and security.
Yeah, no, absolutely, yeah. Another question that comes through here as well, I think, is your system tailored towards smaller firms? Yes, it is. Firm Central, Thomson Reuters service, is designed for small law firms. We're primarily looking at sole practitioner firm up to, say, 10 to 15 or so, maybe a bit more in terms of fee earners. We've designed it that way because, as we've kind of covered a bit today as well, the needs of a smaller law firm can vary greatly from a larger law firm. And so rather than taking a very large system, which we also do provide for the corporate arena as well, rather than cutting something down to try and fit a small law firm, we've decided to create our service, for smaller law firms. So it's easy to use. It's agile. It provides the information you need, but without additional bloating for more complicated things, which you probably don't need as a small law firm, but maybe larger law firms do need. So yes, the answer is yes on that one. We've got one's coming in thick and fast now. Here we go. Okay. Okay, has the risk of waiving legal privilege been considered in the context of disclosing the client information to the cloud provider? Now, I don't know if that will be a question for somebody with a legal background, Sally, possibly. Could you help me on that one? So, yeah, has the risk of waiving legal privilege been considered in the context of disclosing the client information to the cloud provider?
Again, are you disclosing it to the cloud provider if it's encrypted?
I think that's the key point. I think by storing client data with a cloud provider, you're not disclosing the information because it's encrypted data which is stored on, in our case, our servers in the UK. No one person accesses that information. It's encrypted by one team. It is stored by another team, and they would have to work together in an almost evil empire way to actually try and get into that data. So you're not disclosing that data.
So it's still a confidential communication between the client and their lawyer, isn't
Absolutely, yeah.
I mean, I think that's an assumption I have to make because I mean everything I've read on the SRA paper, the guidance from the Law Society, etc., it doesn't raise this as an issue. I really say I think it is because it's encrypted. At the end of the day, it's my document on my bit of your cloud, as it were, which only I can see and anyone else I permit to see.
Agreed. Yeah.
So I think that's where I'm not actually disclosing it to anyone. I'm merely storing it, which is why it's so important to have a system that's recognised with a company that's recognised and well known, rather than any sort of cloud anywhere where one wouldn't know who would be seeing it. I mean, the real risks to small firms are you have to weigh up your risks. The risks of losing client information, of having it stolen, of it lying around in bits of paper, etc., are higher, much higher for me, I think, than the risk of some rogue employee or something in a company that's well known doing something with my information.
Well, I hope that's answered your questions. We're running out of time now, so I think I think we covered all the questions there. If we missed your question, apologies. So now I'm going to say basically just thank you, really. I and the rest of the panel would like to thank you for all your time today and all your questions. You had loads come through, so that's great. And it's been really great to get insights from Sally and Roxanne on this topic as well. I think it's really interesting to get some first-hand information from Sally in the field and also with her work with Law Society as well.
Thanks for inviting me.
And just to mention, the webinar has been recorded and will be sent to you later this week, along with the slides. I'm also obliged to inform you that nothing in this webinar should be taken to constitute legal advice. I'm sure you're aware of that already, but I have to say that anyway. And if you would like to find out more about our management solution, Firm Central, or any other of our services, there will be the option to contact us in the webinar follow-up email as well. So should you have any further questions or would like to talk a bit about Firm Central, please do get in touch. We'd love to hear from you.
Thank you.
Thanks very much, everyone.
Bye.
Bye-bye.